Protests can be public and disrupted by nature. However, it's important to remember these protests are concerned in making the world a safer, kinder place for everyone. People do want their voices to be heard and action and reform happen.
Hi, my name is Karen Persissi. The first question that I'm going to answer is, do you think that the protests in response to systemic racism is necessary? And personally, I think obviously yes. But after researching it and learning about the organization called Race Forward, it just furthered my understanding for it. And you can really see how it affects someone's everyday life. The next one is, do you think that it is possible to create a multicultural democracy? And I think that it is possible. I think that the protests are kind of in place to create a multicultural democracy and kind of have it be.
I personally don't think that it's right for me to speak on whether the protests are necessary, because I am not being oppressed in the way that the people of color around me are. But it is clear to me that they believe protests are necessary, and I wholeheartedly stand with them.
I do believe the protests against systemic racism are necessary. It has plagued our country for far too long, and I'm ashamed to be part of a nation where such a thing exists and that one race has an advantage over another. I believe that the protests are definitely going to put us on the right track in order to end systemic racism. And so, yes, I believe they're necessary.
Hi, I'm Merle, and I will be responding to the first question. I believe that protests around the country in response to systemic racism are necessary. People protest when their cause is not being advocated for or has not been fulfilled. For example, the Black Lives Matter movement is a very important cause, and many protests have happened because not enough of our nation has acknowledged it. People should realize that systemic racism is in fact a problem in this country, and refusing to acknowledge it is not going to get us anywhere. People think that looting and rioting is unnecessary, and while that may be true, people's lives have been lost, and systemic racism has not been changed in this country very much. So, protest as a response is totally necessary because there has been no change, and the lives that have been lost have not received justice, nor have they been advocated for until recently.
It is absolutely possible to create a multicultural democracy. It's just going to take some work. Hearing diverse perspectives, especially from those groups who have been historically undervalued and spoken over, giving everyone equal treatment should be the most important thing to everyone. Dr. King said in his famous I Have a Dream speech, "They have come to realize that their destiny is tied up in our destiny. They have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone." When one group of people is oppressed or hurting, everyone else is affected. We have to educate ourselves and work together to create better futures for ourselves and future generations.
This is my response to the Martin Luther King on thing. So here we go. I'm going to be answering the first question, which is, do you think protests against systemic racism are necessary? Honestly, yes. You know, if we're looking at the definition of systemic racism, which is basically racism that's just embedded in a normal culture, then if that's going to happen, then I think the protests are necessary, because the protests are supposed to get the word out saying, hey, this is unacceptable. In which it really is. It really is unacceptable. I mean, it should not be part of a normal culture. Everyone should be living at peace. And if the Constitution says everyone should be living at peace, then why aren't people living at peace?
I think that the demands of people of color that they have been saying for decades now have been ignored. And through the Black Lives Matter movement, those demands are coming to light, and more people are understanding what the Black Lives Matter movement is about. And I think that when more people are educated on these issues, that we can create massive change. So yes, I do think that it is possible to create a multicultural democracy. It'll just take a lot of work.
Hi guys, my name is Nibel and I'm a sophomore. I think that protests across the country in response to systematic racism are necessary because systematic racism is something that has been around for a long time and it doesn't look like it's going to change soon. So protesting is the only solution where we can express our pain and spread awareness towards all the injustice things and protest for change. Protesting is also necessary because if we can protest and make changes, then it's very necessary. I also feel like if we could make changes by protesting, then we are one step closer to hopefully ending systematic racism, even though it seems impossible.